Managers of Reddit, what made you fire an employee on their first day? Well, second day for this one. Old guy kept dozing off during training. Denied it when I addressed him about it, and yet it kept happening. Fired him for it on day 2. Fast forward maybe 8 months, he emails me to let me know that he really had been falling asleep and I had been justified with the action I took. He realized there was an issue a few weeks after I terminated him because he fell asleep while driving and rear-ended another vehicle. Went to a specialist as a result, and they found that the Parkinson's medication he'd started shortly before beginning training was making him narcoleptic. Said he had rectified that with new meds and asked for a second chance. Gave him the opportunity for a do-over. And lo and behold, he's a good employee. She just left, I couldn't find her anywhere. Called her later at her parents' home and fired her. Mom was pissed at me. I'm sorry mom, but I'm not in the business of employing people that don't work for me. Pub and bar manager here. This happened at my previous pub. New guy's first shift and he was constantly on his phone and going for cigarette breaks without permission. 2 hours into his shift his mates came in and he gave them all free drinks, shots and snacks. A few of them were under 18. Fired him on the spot, and he had the audacity to appeal, despite overwhelming evidence against him including 5 witness statements and CCTV, not to mention the stock count deficit. Just to clarify, I'm from the UK, England. Girl snorted in disgust when I asked her to clear a table in her section. Wouldn't be shown how to set a table, and snapped at another manager. Do you even want to be here? I asked. Not really. Okay, grab your stuff, good luck to you. Sounds like mommy made her get a job, and she resented it. My cousin is spoiled as fuck. I previously commented on how he sued a bouncer for assaulting him, driving the nightclub and the bouncer to huge debts as a result of litigation. Anyway, my cousin's dad owns many companies. One day, the office manager of one of those companies fired him because he always shows up after 2 p.m. at work. My cousin said he'll regret it. Unfortunately, the dad called the manager, told him to put him on the loudspeaker and said no favors in front of everyone. Still fired. He eventually weaved his way back in after facing some huge dressing down from his dad. The dude who showed up in pants so tight you could see his entire dick and balls. It was a children's bounce play area / fun zone. We told him to go home and change. He came back over an hour later, with Starbucks, in blindingly white skinny jeans. Same issue. Parents complained the first time. I worked at an upscale restaurant in college. Like servers are wearing a tie and have those fancy table scrapers for crumbs, and we had monthly wine classes to educate us on our extensive wine list. We hired a bartender with an impressive resume. She stripped on the weekends, but had a very good resume of lots of different bartending experience, looked professional during her interview. She was really great. Her second shift, a Sunday lunch, she showed up in a fishnet crop top with neon green pasties and shorts showing half her butt cheeks. She said she forgot her uniform, so she just came in wearing what she had in her car. She was told to go home and change, so she went to her car, took off her fishnet top and replaced it with a bikini top. Said she didn't have time to go home because she missed out on tips she was owed. Then was baffled when the manager just outright fired her. Over half our clientele was uptight old ladies, and it being Sunday lunch, it's gonna be the church crowd. You're not getting the tips you think you're going to get from them, I promise. Chief officer of a merchant vessel here. Technically, second in command of the ship after the captain. A seaman joined our ship while our vessel was berthed in Mobile, Alabama. He was carrying a plastic water bottle during familiarization rounds on deck with the third officer, and when it was empty proceeded to throw the bottle overboard. My Russian captain saw this, calmly asked me to call the seaman to his office, gave back all his documents, asked the agent to book him a flight back to where he came from. All of this happened in a span of 3 hours. Guy lied about knowing how to drive a forklift. Drove into a support beam. I did this, but I didn't lie. They brought in a stand-up forklift and I had never been trained. I did fine for the first 7 DRS 55 min. My team leader was not really pleased that I had picked it up quicker than most. 5 minutes before the end of my shift I clipped the beam. I bent it slightly. My team leader came running up and after finding out I was okay started laughing. We had to go up to the office and take a drug test. I was clean but it's procedure. Never heard about it again. I had an employee call off on her first scheduled day. On her second scheduled day, she showed up 2 hours late. This was a sub shop. We weren't open yet but we had been in doing prep, baking bread, and building our sub trays for catering orders. We told her that this wasn't going to work out and she got pissed. She started yelling that we were all racists assholes and as she stormed out the door, she knocked over stacks of sub trays. We lost 15 trays to her tantrum. My boss went running out the door after her and the girl's boyfriend got out of the car and reached behind his back swearing and telling my female boss that if she keeps stepping to them that he would stop her good. We are pretty sure that he had a gun. My boss checked the license plate and came back in. We had all of this girl's information, address, phone, social security, etc., from the paperwork, so with that and the security footage of her destroying the trays, we were able to press charges for the damage. I was an assistant manager at Subway. I usually like to give people time. It's a tougher job than it seems from the outside, everyone sucks at first, and taking someone's livelihood away is not a decision to be made lightly. But I had one lady who only lasted 3 hours. She was perfectly fine for the first couple minutes, while the store manager was there. But she had a doctor's appointment, so she introduced us and told the new employee I was in charge when she wasn't there. As soon as my boss left, this lady just flatly ignored me when I asked her to do stuff like food prep or dishes. So I was already pretty pissed but trying to be patient. When we got busy, I stationed her putting veggies on sandwiches. She said a few things to customers that annoyed me, but nothing too bad at first. Then one guy asked for extra olives and she told him no. He was a bit offended and asked again, and she practically shouts, "You don't need any more olives, you have plenty." So I tell her to give him the olives he's asking for. Then she starts shouting at me about Subway standard veggie portions like I wasn't the one who taught her 45 minutes ago. I tried a little to explain that it's a default amount but customers can get extra, no big deal. She wasn't having it, so I stepped away from my station, gave the poor guy his olives, and apologized. That's when she lost it and started screaming that I was undermining her. I told her to go do dishes and I'd cover her station. She went storming off, thank God. I was already planning on talking to the store manager about it, because holy shit. But as luck would have it, the franchise owner dropped in for something or other. As soon as the new girl realized who he was, she started ranting about how I didn't control my veggie portions or some shit and I should be fired. When the franchise owner took my side, obviously, she shouted at him too. That was that, except that she called the store manager later, in tears, begging to know what she'd done wrong, and made it sound like she didn't realize I was her boss or that shouting at the owner about how he doesn't know how to run a business is inappropriate. My boss hired a new lab technician, I am the manager so he had to report to me. At the end of the shift he tried to clean medical equipment with dish soap. 'Cause he didn't want to wait for the machine to finish, which the other crew would be responsible for. He tried to microwave blood. In a microwave for food. And last but not least he forgot to put someone in the freezer. For 5 hours. He was such a mess. If you like the content please consider subscribing, and don't forget to hit the like button.